Yeah. Can you tell us more about your company?
Yes. So I already covered it in more detail in one of the lectures that I have today, but essentially what we do is we use mobile technology and other information technology to bridge the gaps in services and improve efficiency in the development sector. So with government, with NGOs, and different programs, social sector programs, we create database solutions that help organizations be more efficient and provide better services.
So you could give it, for the ones who are not there, maybe
Yeah.
you can give an example of it.
Yeah, so one example would be a project where we do, we provide services to rural people, health services, through an app that is used by a rural pharmacist. So a pharmacist uses the app to gather data about patients and sets up appointments with doctors sitting in cities. And the doctor looks at the data and provides a prescription that gets printed on the other end. So that's a use of mobile technology to provide a certain service.
So you talked about like making choices when you have this dilemma of going for your heart or like being rational and making more realistic decisions. But what if there are other people involved, like your responsibility toward your family, that you have to go toward that rational?
That's a really difficult question. For me, I was lucky that I didn't have like really immediate responsibilities that I had to meet. So I had some buffer space, and I completely understand that some people have that immediate responsibility that they have to fulfill, and I completely respect that. So yeah, it's, at the end of the day, it's a personal choice, and you also have to weigh the pros and cons and come to your own decision. So one of the questions I have for you guys is, like, do you have one specific example of such a decision that you're trying to make in your life, and whether like my experience relates to you in a way that helps you make the decision better? So like I'd love to hear any thoughts on that. Yeah.
Like me personally, I have like my parents. I want to support them financially after like all these years of studying, and they are waiting for me to see the fruits of their like all their years that they helped me and supported me. But I don't know if I go for example, for my master's, whether should I work, whether even stay and work for many years, and then after that go continue with my master's. But I'm like thinking what to do, what is best, and on the one hand is my responsibility for my family and especially my parents, or my brother who never got to travel around the world, he's stuck in that small town, and he's always like complaining in an indirect way that you all left, stuck here to support the parents. So I'm like between these to go for my heart, and it's like doing the jobs and traveling around the world and or doing other things, or go for any job that pays behind and support my family.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's your personal decision, and I think one thing I can tell you is that like don't, or I shouldn't prescribe, but let me think of how to rephrase this. So I think one way to look at it is short-term versus long-term. So I think people are much more likely to be successful in something that they feel really passionate about. And like in everything else, you'll be probably just average. So in the long run, I think it's better for you and your family that you like follow your passions and make something of yourself. But in the short run, it might mean like losing that ability to support your parents. But it's not even like a either or, because sometimes you might find something right now, given like Christian's course on social entrepreneurship, like you might like find something that pays your bills, but also gives you the reward of working on something that you feel passionate about. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a question. So like basically you were interested more in programming, but in your undergrad and your master's you didn't want to do that.
I was bored of it by the time I was 16 years old.
He started when he was 8. He was an 8-year-old coder.
Yeah, so yeah. That's the simple answer.
Is- going back to Masuma's question, in your description you'd mentioned concerns about your children when you made that decision to move back to Bangladesh. So can you tell us a bit more about that?
Sure. Let me give you my current status, right? So when I came back to Bangladesh, in most cases I cannot like buy fruits for my children because like it's all tainted apparently, or as they say. There's no space for them to go out and play. And also just the violence on the street. So even now, whenever I'm going to office, I'm dropping my kids off at my in-laws' place or some other place, and I have to take the car, and like anytime anything can happen on the streets of Dhaka or Bangladesh, right? So that's what I mean by like compromising the safety and security of my children. So that was a big consideration when I decided to move back. But at the end of the day, I decided that they would forgive me when they grow older for making the choice of following my heart. So I hope that they would respect that decision.
There's a hand here, yeah?
I have one question. Like when you start up your entrepreneur, like, is there anyone helping you, and what is the difficulty that you face when with your entrepreneur?
So do you mean like who supported me and like what were the challenges?
I mean, you start your entrepreneur by yourself, or you cooperate with anyone else?
Oh, yeah. So I just talked about this in the last session on social entrepreneurship, where like I really strongly believe that you cannot do anything by yourself. You need partners, whether it's like physical partners to actually help you do things, or like be your business partner, but also people like thought partners and mentors and supporters and champions, right? So there are like a lot of different categories of partners who I think are really valuable for building any enterprise. And I was quite lucky to have many of them. My business partner was someone who I really worked well with. We have a really good chemistry with each other. We really enjoy working together. So that really helps. We also had good mentors and supporters to help us through difficult times. So definitely we got a lot of support. And at the end of the day, a lot of it is also about luck and whether you find that right support system to help you in that early stage.
Can you share with us one of your experiences about the difficulty you face with your entrepreneur?
So I was just talking about this in the last session as well. Right now we are about 90 employees, so like we have grown really fast over the last 1 year. And we have not been able, so over the last 2 or 3 months, we've had a real difficulty in managing our cash flow situation, paying salaries on time, and like we have had employees, luckily, and I think this says something about the company itself, we've not had a single employee leaving because they didn't get salaries. So like that tells me that the company is doing something right. But at the same time, like it's really challenging for us to bear our expenses and also pay salaries on time so that people can sustain themselves. And part of the reason is, as I mentioned in the previous talk, is also about foreseeing problems and really managing growth well. And that comes with a lot of business experience and expertise, which none of us really had. So we came from social science backgrounds. We didn't really have a business experience before. So I wish somebody had told us before that we needed to manage growth as we were growing so fast. So those have been some challenges.
You mentioned you don't like the way you use function or something. Can you elaborate?
Yeah. So I did work with a few NGOs for short periods of time, and also as a consultant externally with Empower. I've been doing it for a long time. And the thing that really frustrates me about NGOs is, and not just NGOs themselves, but the entire development ecosystem, is how rigid and one-dimensional it is. So in the sense that you typically in development projects, you create a plan and you execute on that plan without really looking back at whether what you're doing makes any difference. And the other piece about this is the sustainability angle. It always relies on funds from donations or like philanthropic capital to actually sustain itself. And 5 years down the project, if some donor decides that they don't want to fund this anymore, your project stops and suddenly like thousands of workers are unemployed. So there's no sustainability to what you're doing. One of the things that we're currently working on is the project that I just talked about, where we're creating an entrepreneurial service to provide health services to rural areas without depending on any donations. So in this particular case, we have the patients paying fees for that service, and that operates the entire ecosystem. So we are really experimenting about that, and we are really passionate about creating market-based solutions to social sector services. Yeah.
Like the whole thing that you present us today is that you choose to take heart over head. And is there any time that you choose both heart and head?
I think that is a really easy choice to make, right? Because if both your heart and your head tells you to do the same thing, you don't really have a dilemma. So yeah, I can think of tons of examples of that. For example, I would say choosing Harvard over like other programs that I had. One of them was a PhD program that would take 5 years to complete. That would give me a lot more money in terms of resources and like stipends to sustain myself. But with Harvard, I knew that I would really enjoy the program more. It would take me 2 years, and it would also fit with my working style and my passion more. So eventually I ended up with that because both my heart and my head told me to do the same thing. So, yeah.
I mean, I don't know much, but I just feel like when you choose love over going for higher education at that time, is there any social pressure that you have, for example, people who will criticize you, like, or you just did not care, like, whatever, I will just follow my passion, follow my heart?
I don't think I ever told anyone this before this audience. So my parents definitely don't know that. So like at that time, my justifications were, well, the scholarship is not big enough, and like I think I'll do a good job here. I'm getting a scholarship from IUP, and like I can be close to you guys. So there can be a lot of other ways of explaining to people than saying it out loud.
But do they know now what the real reason was?
No.
Will send them a link to this video?
Sorry?
We'll send them a link to the video of the talk.
That
You know,
goes,
we
that
have
goes
tape.
into YouTube tomorrow morning.
Oh, okay. Make sure my parents don't find out.
No, we'll send it directly to them.
Okay.
Is what I was saying.
Well, now I have 2 kids, so they can't really complain. They're really busy with their grandchildren.
Yeah?
I mean, did you really believe in yourself that that not going for higher education and staying in your country would be better? And or you were thinking like, as long as you try hard and then try to cooperate with people and then it will work out?
Yeah, like I said, it's a leap of faith more than anything else. So I knew that I didn't know if it would be better for me here or there. Like, of course, that was anybody's guess. But I just decided that, like, even if I stayed, like, for me, basically the decision was 5 years later, what would I regret more? Like losing my girlfriend or losing, let's say, a university degree from abroad? And for me, the answer was very clear.
Dennis?
So recently I read some articles about digital partners and how they help us to be successful. So just I wanted to know how your wife helped you to be successful in the way you are today.
That's a really good question. I think it's really critical that your partner is supportive of you, what you're doing. Just to give you the example of the present moment, like I don't have a penny in my pocket, and my wife completely supports me through all that. So I think that's a really rare. I think I'm privileged in that way, that like I have a partner who supports me that way. My parents have also been really supportive. My brother has been really supportive. Like he's been actually lending me money to sustain myself for the time being, even though he's like 6 years younger than me. So that's how life is. But like at least I don't live with any regrets. Like I'm really lucky that I have people to support me all through that. Yeah.
What if we don't have the support support that we want in pursuing the line or the career that we want to, what do we do then? No support at all, because there are cases like
Yeah,
that.
of course.
What do we do then? Do we just listen to our heart, be selfish? I mean, stop.
Yeah, again, I wouldn't quite put it as selfish, because I think at the end of the day, if you're miserable in what you're doing, you'll make your parents and your partner miserable as well. So you're also doing them a favor by being happy yourself. So I think that's the way I look at it. If you don't get any support, I think it's okay to walk alone. But it always helps to have that support.
Nova?
Do you believe that choosing hard over head is always a good decision?
I just made my point.
I think for myself, maybe in future I may face a similar situations like going to higher study or staying there in Bangladesh. But I'm afraid to support my heart, because I feel like I may end up as a failure just choosing my heart over my head.
Again, I go back to my point about regrets, because I think when you follow your heart, you shouldn't have any regrets about it, despite the outcome. And I think when you follow your heart, you also give it a much more genuine try. So when you choose because for example, when I chose to stay back, I think I was a lot more proactive in finding every opportunity that I found in Bangladesh, which I might not have if I went abroad. So I think at the end of the day, it works out better when you follow your intuitions.
I have another question,
Yeah.
like as a follow-up. When you were taking a decision of staying back in Bangladesh rather than going for higher study, what was your partner's opinion about it? Was she supporting you to stay back, or was she telling you to go for higher study?
She told me to go. Yeah. So I had to choose my heart over what she said.
Choose her instead of what she said. In spite of what she said.
She told you to go, but if you went at the time, she could have married with another.
Who knows, right? I think that's anybody's guess, but of course that was a fear in my mind. But I think I also really wanted to, because it was a very new relationship at the time, so I also wanted to savor every moment I had with her. And if I chose to go, I would be giving up at least 4 years of time with her, which didn't make any sense to me at that time.
So what are your future plans about your organization in power? Because you said that you're running short on money, and since you're employing so many people, you would have to be responsible for their condition, right?
Mhm.
Maybe they have their own responsibility.
Of course.
Or they might need money
Yeah.
or something like that. So how do you plan to deal with that situation?
So honestly, like I said, I think I lied when I say I didn't have any regrets, because so one regret I do have is what keeps me awake at night is the fact that our employees are not getting paid their salaries on time. Personally, it doesn't affect me as much because I have my support networks. I can get resources elsewhere, but I'm sure many of our employees don't have the similar support networks, and they have responsibilities that they have to fulfill. So that is a regret that I have, that I didn't see that coming. But so going forward, we're taking steps, anything that we can do to actually improve the situation. So for one, we know that we have money coming. It's just taking a lot of time to come. And we also are seeking investments so that we have buffer funds to run ourselves if in case these situations happen. We are trying to employ a finance manager to better manage our cash flow and financial liquidity. So all of those together will hopefully get us to a situation that is much better. And we are also planning to manage our growth much better now. We are looking to hire much more selectively. We're looking to get people to their right positions instead of just fitting them in different places. So we are trying to take appropriate steps.
By joining the company that you are working now, do you at that time when you were joining this company, you had any alternative or parallel options that you want, or you now think when you look back that you might have better, it might have more pros than cons choosing that company than over this?
I didn't really have other options because I wasn't. Well, the ones I tried, I realized I crossed them off the list. I realized I didn't fit in there. So this definitely made a lot of sense to me, and like of course, it's theoretically possible that I would have found something even better, but I highly doubt that because like I'm really passionate about what I do, and I think like if I continued on this path for the rest of my life, I would still not be unhappy. So I think that makes me quite convinced that I've found the path for myself. Yeah.
While you were still deciding on what you wanted to do, you at one point crossed out that you definitely want to be a journalist.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I actually want to go into that field, but the one question that I almost often get asked is what type of journalism do I want?
Mm-hmm.
Whether do I want to go into the political journalism or entertainment or culture? But for me, the problem for me is that I haven't decided that yet, and I have no idea what type of journalist I want to be. If you were having that problem, what would you do?
I would try out all of those options and cross them one by one.
For me, I'm already trying to do that. But it completely annoys me to my bones that I don't know what to do yet because I have this paranoia thing that I need to know what I want to do.
Mm-hmm. I think that's something that a lot of people face, including myself at one time in my life. Like I will not deny the fact that I actually regretted at some point in my life that I didn't know what to do next. When there was so much peer pressure, I was seeing a lot of my friends having jobs and like doing well. My parents were hoping that I would get a job or like do something meaningful with life. So I did regret that, not knowing that at that time. But I think looking back now, like I'm really glad that I didn't take the easy way out and just land on something and stick to it and waited for the best opportunity to arise. Yeah.
Because we're getting
You have been
towards the end.
unusually
Also,
quiet
I've been-
today.
Yeah, hey, it's wonderful. I will have tons for then, but one that I think would be interesting for all of us here is, and I've mentioned it to you a little bit earlier. We're in a liberal arts college, and students get a mixed background from humanities, social sciences, and science. And sometimes, despite of how important and relevant they feel it has been to their education, sometimes I feel we find it hard to express explicitly what are the skills, what are the strengths, what are the advantages that it gives us when it comes to job market, for example, and to selling ourselves into different projects and stuff. And we kind of know there are strengths, but it's hard to identify or express it or point it. And you repeated many times since the morning that you were like, it's good, I've done this, and then it has been. So what would be for you some of these key skills, key advantages that basically this kind of education gives them in the job market and in the job place?
So when I describe myself, I call myself a generalist because I kind of know a little bit about a lot of different things, but I don't really have like a specific expertise in any one area or two areas where like I really feel like I've hit the bottom of that subject. So the way I look, but I think that has really helped me be very innovative in many ways because I could kind of see the intersections of different areas and find things that are really innovative at the intersection of those disciplines. So for example, the work that I do in like using data for decision making, I'm not an expert on visualizations, I'm not an expert on data, I'm not an expert on development, but like I kind of see the intersections between these things and I can find the right people to help me actually work through it, right? So I think the best way so one model that I was just talking about today at lunch is to think of yourself as a T. So if you are a T and the width of your like arm spread is how many, like the breadth of areas that you have expertise in, whereas your feet of the T is your like grounding in any one area. I think what liberal arts education does is gives you that width, right? And the feet and the depth comes from experience on the field, and like getting higher education, all of those things. So if you like, I think when you sell yourselves now, I think you should consider yourselves lucky that you have had such a breadth of education, and that compared to someone who's doing a BBA and then an MBA, all they have of the tea is that leg but no breadth, right? So I think that is a real power of liberal arts education that people often miss, and to be able to be really innovative and contribute interesting ideas in any workplace that you go to, it's really useful to have that breadth so that you can look at the same problem from many different lenses, and that is a real power that you have.
So your description ended with a cliffhanger, right? So I guess the last question.
I was waiting
would be,
for that question.
What's next?
So basically, like the latest juncture that I'm at right now is a dilemma that I hope doesn't make it out of this room. So essentially,
Maybe stop recording.
no, that's fine. So basically, where I'm at is Empower has kind of reached a stage now where it can grow to become a global company. We have the experience, we have the portfolio, we have enough successful projects that like enough people are interested in our service that we can become more of a global company slowly. We only recently like won a contract against, like we were competing against IBM on an NGO project, and we won that contract. So that tells me that we are competing at an international level now and are quite competitive. So that's the safe path, right? So if I continue on that path, I can probably make the company much bigger, like make it really successful, establish it as a really big name in the development sector, at least the ICT4D sector. But one thing that really frustrates me about Empower is the fact that, again, we are kind of limiting ourselves to that development sector that I criticize, which is that unsustainability of donor-based services, right? Which are not sustainable. So if a project ends tomorrow, we don't have the power to actually make it continue. So that kind of is a ceiling that I cannot break through Empower. And that tells me that I cannot really solve the problem of, let's say, lack of healthcare in rural areas through the Empower model. I can probably help improve on the status quo of government programs, of NGO programs, and make it marginally better, maybe 30% better or 50% better, but I cannot fundamentally revolutionize and provide quality healthcare services to every poor person in the world, right? So that's my vision. Now, how to do it? One model that we're trying out is this model of directly providing services to patients in rural areas and monetizing that in some form so that the